And today just need to have a heart to heart. And today I want to encourage you to fire fear as your CEO. Now, you may not have fear as your CEO, but what I have noticed is many people do have fear as interim CEO of their business. And so fear is now making all of the decisions in our business: fear of rejection, fear of missing out, fear of success. Fear is the thing that is killing our beautiful business before it even has a chance to impact people. And if we want to make a real impact on people, we have to fire fear as a CEO. Instead of fear being a CEO, what if we got rid of fear? And what if instead we hired possibility or faith or action or focus or courage or bravery? All of these would be so much better at being the CEO than fear is. Because here's what happens when fear is in our decision-making process. Fear is not a good decision maker. Does matter in our business. I am afraid of failure, 100%. The way I use fear, though, is I'm so afraid of failure that I'm going to make sure I do every single thing that I need to do in order to be successful. Fear's job inside my business and inside my head says, go record this video, because if you do not consistently put out helpful content to the people that you are trying to serve, then nobody will know you exist. Nobody knows you can help them. They're going to continue to be stuck. And that is the fear that I let drive me. I let fear be a warning light or a watchtower. When I start feeling fear, like, oh, I don't know if we're going to be successful, what that does, that tells me to take a step back and look at what's happening in my business so that I don't end up going off of a cliff. Fear is designed to keep us safe to an extent, but fear is not a good decision maker and fear is not a good action taker. And so when I think about our businesses in our heads, I think about, we have a bunch of roles. We have the watchtower, right? The signal light. That's what fear is supposed to do. We need to really make sure we keep fear in its spot. We don't want to push it down. We don't want to shut it up all the time. That's going to make us really unhealthy emotionally, physically. We're not trying to compartmentalize fear. We're just trying to say, fear, this is your job. Just look out and let me know if there are any signs of trouble ahead. That's fear's job. Now, when it comes to making decisions, I want to encourage you to hire a different decision maker. The decision makers that I like for my business are faith and possibility. And then if you have to take action, which we do on a daily basis, what if instead of fear taking action, right? Like when fear is trying to do action, it's like, but what if, but what if, but what? But instead we could hire focus, we could hire bravery, we could hire courage, we could hire confidence. And this is going to change the way we operate in our business and in our life, because fear is no longer calling the shots. We have to make decisions about our staffing. Self-leadership is just as important as the leadership that we provide to our clients. And so a lot of us are like, I was talking to Haley about this yesterday. She's like, I want to be such a good captain. And if I fail, I feel like I'm not, letting my team down. And she's, really hurtful at, saying some discouraging things to herself. And I was like, well, if you want to lead other people, the first person you need to lead is yourself. And so who you have on your personal board of directors is everything when it comes to how are you going to do in your business. And so the first decision that you need to make for staffing is not which coach to hire, although you do need to do that. It's not, should I hire a VA or not? It's not, what hours am I going to work? It's actually making sure that you do not hire fear as a CEO and instead you hire the right board of directors. So we need to fire fear. We need to hire possibility, faith, action, etc. Now, how does this look like in real life on a daily basis? So I'm going to just walk you through how do we nurture these other emotions or attributes or characters, however, like it's kind of like Inside Out, right? Where you have anger, joy, fear, etc. So how do we nurture these characters in our business? This is something that we actually need to do, because fear will just come in and run amok. It'll start trashing the house and all of that. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that possibility, faith, focus, action, etc., that they are strong and that they can do their job so fear doesn't come in and try to do the job. So here's what we do for possibility. Possibility is in charge of creating the vision for our future, looking at the future. And so the thing that we do to nurture possibility in our business is asking this question: if I were to blank, how would I? The question I've been asking myself in this evolution of really working hard to fire fear as a CEO is, if we were to take our business from $400,000 a year to 4 million, how would I do it? That isn't like, what, can I do 4 million? That's going to start inviting fear. But if I were to, how would I? That's a question of possibility and openness. And it's already helped us to make really strong moves that are going to put us in a good position to do that. The second place we need to nurture is faith. Faith in terms of decision making. I'm not talking about spiritual or religious faith, but like faith in ourselves, faith in the business, faith in a positive future. And so when we are making decisions in our business, instead of saying, what am I missing out on? That's FOMO, right? We're going to ask, if I knew I wouldn't fail, what is the decision that I would make today if I knew I wouldn't fail? And that's how we use faith to help us to make decisions, much better than fear. Now, if we have focus, the way we nurture focus is we say, what is the number one thing that I need to work on this quarter in order to move the needle? We focus on one area of our business at a time. When we have time blocks, like my time right now is to create content, I'm just going to be here. Yeah, I have a lot of things going in my head. I could do this. I could write this email. I could do this post. I could reach out to this client. Oh, I have an idea for this. But focus is, what is the number one thing that I need to be doing right now? And I need to stay present in that task. And that is a muscle that we build. If I stopped this video halfway through and went and did something else, I would be training my mind and my body to not be focused. So we need to strengthen our focus by putting in the reps so that we are used to staying focused on one thing at a time. Distraction is more prevalent now than it ever has been in the past. And so this is something that we need to work on and nurture. How do we nurture and cultivate bravery in our business? There's a Matt Damon movie, We Bought a Zoo, and he talks about 5 seconds of courage, and we can do that. So when we are going to make our task, or whatever task we're doing, maybe we're trying to outreach, maybe we're doing a piece of content and we feel fear creeping up, being like, don't do it, don't post a thing. What if we just take that 5 seconds of courage and we decide that instead of fear making that call, bravery is going to make the call? And so how do we do this practically in our business? I'm just going to tell you how I do it. You can take what's helpful, leave what's not, and how to keep fear in its place. So the first thing that I do, I think, just if you've listened this far or watched this far, awareness of this, and just, sitting back and thinking, okay, who is calling the shots in my business? Who am I going to let call the shots in my business? I think that is going to be a good start. So the first is awareness. The second is, every morning while I'm having my breakfast, I journal. And I'm a pretty left-brain person, but I found it really helps me a lot with both addressing fear and listening to fear. And so one of the things, if I'm having a lot of feelings or I'm feeling afraid, I'll just write down all the things that I'm afraid of, get them out of my head and onto the paper so I can look at them. And then I summon possibility, and I'm like, okay, well, if we were to fix these problems that fear is like, hey, there's a problem. If we were to fix these, how do we go about doing that? And I start answering those questions. And now I'm shifting into more action-oriented, possibility-oriented start to my day, instead of let fear take over everything. And then the third thing is to make sure you are around people who aren't always afraid. I feel really fortunate right now that the most recent coach we hired is not afraid of like anything, it seems. And that lack of fear has really been rubbing off on me lately. And so I think that having an environment, and it can be friends, and maybe it's even our kids, right? They're typically less afraid than we are. It can be anyone in your life, but look to nurture relationships with people who are not afraid. Now, I do understand that you might be afraid to nurture relationships with people who are not afraid. And, we're going to have to, choose a different decision. But surround yourself with people and give yourself inputs of people that are not afraid. This is one of the reasons that I love Pink as an artist so much. Many people in our audience know that she's my favorite artist, hands down. Yes, I listen to a lot of the other pop girlies, but Pink is my favorite because her music is about courage, and it's about resilience, and it's about trying. And so if I'm feeling extra afraid, I can pop on a soundtrack and I can listen to words and music that inspires me to move away from fear and into courage. And so there's a lot of different ways we can surround ourselves with courage and possibility and focus. Find the different ways that you can do that and immerse yourself, just kind of like we're doing a foreign exchange program, right, where we go to a different place for a semester in college and we immerse ourselves in the culture. Immerse yourself in a non-fear driven culture, and you're going to see some great improvements. So, to summarize what we're talking about today, number one, fire fear as the CEO of your business. Don't let it call the shots anymore. Higher possibility, higher faith, higher bravery, higher courage, action, focus. And then let's go out and have a great day in your business whenever you are watching this or listening to this. Have an awesome day. Bye.